Hello, howdy and hello. Thank you for being here. This is episode 12 of the Synaptic Circle, and I'm your host, Heidi Pop, and I love to synchronize my synapses with fellow like minds based on a common theme or thread. I memorize that, and I love to build community. So hello to this beautiful community chat. Hi, Carol and Jane. I see you there. We love our guests today. There's going to be a big camaraderie. You know what? They're all coming from your channels too, pals. I see you. And I want to thank that Gerald and Jane for moderating. I'm already tongue-tied because I'm kind of getting excited. But I first want to give a super big shout out to Mr. Half a Century. Happy birthday, Barry Littleton. Day late.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm nursing. I'm no guru, so I'm nursing a bit of a hangover, but I'm here with you.
That's why you're I love it. Thank you so much for doing that for us. And hello to Jessica. How are you, Cryptid Huntress?
Hey, I'm good. Thank you. And happy birthday, Barry.
Hey, thank you.
Happy birthday. It's good to see you.
Thanks to the Bigfoot post, too.
Oh, for sure. Oh, my God.
That was so funny. That was cute. I see you guys there. Hi, Bauer. Hi, everybody. Now, I'm going to do my best. I think Jessica's queen at this chat, reading the chat and talking. So I'm going to do my best to catch up. But our theme is, well, I'm an 80s baby too. I got my countdown to 50. But it's also summertime. And Jessica and I, the moms, we got the summertime going on with the kids. We've had a campfire too. And all those ghost stories are coming out. But I get really nostalgic. This is the first year I don't go back to Wisconsin to see my family, where I had many drive-in movie experiences, where I've had, my paranormal and cryptid experiences. So it made me think about all the things. And I got this dynamic duo to come just have a chat about it, talk about that summertime stories and, those 80s movies and TV shows and stuff. So there's a few topics, but I'm winding them all together really based on that summertime vibe. So, I guess to get going, if anyone has any fun ghost stories or anything, or before we do the ghost stories, drive-in movies, those are kind of obsolete. Do you guys have any by you that are still operating?
We have one drive-in that actually closed down and opened back up. So it still operates, at least last I heard. So that's you're right, they're becoming a thing of the past, kind of like cigarette machines and phone booths. And
yeah, they're part of all that stuff. Do you have any, Jessica?
Yeah, well, we used to have one. I think it's still there, but I'm not sure. When I lived in Atlanta, we had the Starlight Drive-In on Moreland Avenue, and I used to go all the time. We went on the weekends, and it was really, really cool out there. We'd take a cooler and get, it's like a little camp out kind of thing we'd have out there. Not a real camp out, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And stuff. So, it's been forever. It's probably been 15 years since I've been. So I don't even know if it's still open. Yeah.
That's the thing. I'm looking around and so many are closed. We had a big one, the Van Nuys Airport, by the Van Nuys Airport, a drive-in, and they were always notorious for spotting craft. They'd have a lot of craft since 1948. My little sis, her abuela, her grandma, talked about in the 50s and 60s how at this drive-in they'd always see these UFO ships and crafts, and those who didn't believe were always like, this is part of the movie. It was kind of crazy, but that just closed. And then I know in Door County, Wisconsin, there's one still open, and that's the one I went to. That's the one that would drive my sister at 13, 14 years old because she was drunk. I learned how to drive really quick, but that's still open, and they had Bigfoot spottings there. There's a lot of Sasquatch in Door County. But what I wanted to get into the ghosty part is I found one in Honolulu that's closed, but they had have you heard of the faceless ghost? The woman with the no face. Have you guys ever heard of her? She's at the drive-in in Honolulu, but she'd be in the bathroom, and ladies would be in the mirror and see this woman behind and turn around, and it would be a faceless ghost, and the doors would slam shut. And like every decade, the people were saying like that they passed that story down as some ghost story. So anyway. Those are the drive-in things. Do you have any campfire stories? I know you're taking your son out, Jessica, to do all the summertime activities. Are there any stories you share? You're Bigfoot hunter, so I don't know.
Oh yeah. Well, I was speaking of the faceless ghost. I was actually I was in Reno. We went to Virginia City in Nevada. It was I guess it was last month in May, with a Spaced Out Radio, and we did a ghost hunt there. And I happen to tell you, Heidi, the scariest place that I went we went to the Washo Club. Okay, and that is a world famous haunted spot. It's like an old Western town. The Ghost Adventures crew had been there and done. I don't know if they made the place famous. I think it was famous before that. Okay, but that's how I learned about it. And the scariest place in that whole building was the bathroom. Okay.
And the bathrooms, yeah.
It was the bathroom, and I went in there. I had to go. I had to pee. Okay, at some point, and nobody warned me about the bathroom, and so I went in there, and I just wanted to get out of there. They had these creepy pictures hanging up that looks like a woman staring at you and stuff, and I just got the worst feeling. And it wasn't because I had to go to the bathroom; it was because I did not feel right. Something was just off, and it was the whole rest of the place was creepy too, but the bathroom was the worst place of the whole building. Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of tales in the bathrooms. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah. I know the one in Door County, I would hold it. I never wanted to go to concession by myself because I didn't want to do that walk because it was surrounded by woods. And I had heard the stories of the spottings and stuff and the ghosty ghosts. And so, but I mean, drive-ins are iconic. So, I mean, I could either get into the movie shows now, but I honestly, this is last minute. And I want to throw this out at you guys because it's here now and it's a memory recall and it's not that long ago because it might be a target for you guys when you guys do your show together sometimes. Okay. I lived in, North Hollywood, but I was on a cemetery by Burbank Airport. On the other side of the cemetery was Burbank. I was North Hollywood, but you could see the marquee for Lockheed Martin and it's not there now and you can't find it on Google Maps. But what trips me out with this place is that's the apartment I brought my babies home. So I was up all night. I witnessed things and I would call them in to the cemetery. I eventually was the crazy lady who's breastfeeding and ignore her calls at 2 a.m. kind of lady. But there was an instance of what I thought was maybe a coyote, but it seemed very big running around in the middle of the night. And then it got upright and walked away. And I just hairs on my, everything was standing on end. And I'm like, what is that? And I called it in and they're like, oh, sure, we get coyote. I go, you don't understand. It walked away. And it walked. I saw the way it walked and where it walked. And this is the target. On the edge of the cemetery, it's this huge golden dome. And it's called, I wrote it down, the Portal of Folded Wings Shrine to Aviation. And on the other side is a gate and unmarked buildings that look like airplane hangars, and it's military trucks all around them. And that's it. No signage, no nothing. And I'm like, that's creepy as F. Something's going on, I just thought maybe it's something to check out because you can't see the Lockheed Martin marquee anymore. But I know they were there. We used to do the in-house craft service videos for them and get our petty cash from there. So they're there, but they took it down. And I think once it, got in the, I don't know, in on the news stories and stuff, but isn't that a little creepy? I mean, coyotes don't walk, do they?
Yeah, not usually on 2 legs, but I hear a lot of that. A lot of the times when people describe what they see as like a dog man, it's just like a coyote. It looks like a coyote, even skinny. They're not like even that big, but there's a certain type of dog man. It looks like a coyote that can walk on 2 legs and they climb trees too. And stuff like people will see them up in trees sometimes. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I started hearing about the coyote dog type man actually recently. A lot of stories about that coming out. The little coyotes that get up and walk. So
okay.
Yeah.
Just great. Right. More cryptids,
I know. Do you think there's relation to those military kind of buildings that are not? There's nothing that says military on it, but why are all the trucks there and things? I mean, is that typical by an airport? Or it is typical?
It could be. Well, I don't know if it's typical by an airport, but I've been getting reports from insiders and people I know about unmarked vehicles and stuff down near the airport here in Atlanta, and supposed alleged underground, like deep underground military bases and facilities and stuff that maybe even FEMA camps and stuff. I don't know. I hope not, but stuff like that going on. So yeah,
I hope not either. Yeah.
I know a lot of stuff that they're hiding from us right now, I think. So
completely. Lake Balboa.
The biggest airports I've ever been to is Atlanta's got a huge airport. I've heard about Denver as well, and underground in Denver. And the first person that talked about that was Art Bell. He said he had been under there. So
Mhm, mhm. Those airports are a little trip. Well, you know, whether it's connected or not, there's Lake Balboa is not too far in the valley, and it's kind of a couple of the addresses that Max Spears used to talk about. And they built this huge family, you know, man-made lake. It smells like a sewer, and it's a park, and everybody's playing. But around it, you know, there's little buildings and military vehicles, and it's just like, what are you doing? I'm the snooper, so you know, not too many people are, but it is a Max Spears hot topic, hot place. So I don't know, sketchy stuff. But a cryptid in the valley kind of tripped me out because it's like a concrete jungle there, and I mean, sure, I was up late, but I did not mistake in that one. So those
Oh,
were
well,
my creepy stories. Mhm.
well, you're in California, and I've been covering a lot of California cases of dogmen and other cryptids lately. I had my friend Javier Morales on the show. He's with a group called his team is called Cryptid 559. They're out in they're actually near Fresno. Okay, and they've got a whole bunch of national parks like Yosemite's down there, and there's a couple more. Okay, I don't know if it's Yosemite. Maybe I'm wrong, but it's not
Sequoia and
Sequoia. That's it. He's near Sequoia. He says that he has actual a sighting of his own where he saw what looked like a dog man, but it had ripped shorts on. Ripped shorts. It was wearing clothes, and
my
he saw it firsthand. Yeah.
Oh, geez. I have to check. Yeah, I have to look at that one. There's a lot of stuff going around. I mean, we're in LA, but there's stuff going on. I know in the sky, especially because I had my craft spotting in the valley too. So it's like, okay. Well, I mean, I really wanted to pick your bones about this, especially with Mr. 50-year-old half century man. Which you do have the best clips. You've shown some of my favorite little Facebook posts of like 80s imagery, like of old shows and all those kind of peeps. And I just wanted to pick your guys' brains about some of those cryptids. I mean, we can talk about my first crush, which really started in the 70s, 77 to 82, but the Hulk, he was like, whew, still.
You know,
double
I met him a
hubbard.
couple of years ago. Ferrigno, yeah.
Did you?
I was disappointed. He's not very tall. You know, I come from like the land of the giants. My brothers are 6'5", 6'6". Lou looks like he's maybe my dad's height, 6'3" at most. I was kind of disappointed. I thought he was gonna be the 6'6", 6'7" guy, but he looked very more Italian in person than he does on TV. That's pretty cool.
Oh, wow. You probably put him on blocks or something.
Him, and I'll tell you the other guy that talked me to death, actually, Gil Gerard, Buck Rogers.
Oh, yeah.
I was talking to him and the little robot Tweaky before he passed away, and at one of the local Comic Cons. Nobody was there, and he was just talking. Very interesting, kind of cool. Flash Gordon too. Talked to him for a bit. He looked more like a star than he did on Ted.
That's cute. That's cute. Well, the thing with the Hulk and isn't it is the Swamp Thing, the Hulk and the Fly, to me, they're all science experiments gone bad. Like they all have to deal with that. But I had empathy for all of them. Like they're ones I felt sorry for. Can you think of any other, or did I just name them all? Those sciencey kind of, you know, I guess Spider-Man, but those were big 80s ones. The Swamp Thing I had a crush too. I don't know. It was
Are you talking about Nicholas Evans with the big
Yes!
wristband thing with the platform boots? Oh man. You know, I was just recently watching an old 80s show called Emilio Estevez, and it's like artificial intelligence maximum overdrive. The one where the coach is like getting the pop, and the pop hits him in the head, and everything, the machines start taking over, including the big truck with like the Joker's face on it, the semi.
I missed that one. Yeah, I don't know.
Just interesting. It was, I think it was, it's this ship or meteor scene, and then suddenly you have all this machines start self-activating.
Oh,
so
God.
Kind of interesting.
Predictive programming.
Completely. What about the Fly? Like what? I guess that's disclosure, isn't it? If they have all these science experiments gone wrong, they're just telling you what's going on underground.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think seeing now how much the superhero thing has really taken over, because you know when we were young, you have maybe like what my friend wrote for the Super Friends and the cartoons. That's about it. You didn't have any movies or shows like that. We're talking about the Hulk, and Spider-Man, let's face it, Captain America, those were terrible shows. Let's face it. They're nostalgic now, but they were terrible. Every week I'd get home quick to see when dude's eyes are going to turn green. What was going to happen? Half the time he would metamorphosize because he was clumsy and nosing around where he shouldn't be. Yeah, I mean, sorry, don't go too hard on the 80s thing. I start having too much fun with it.
I know that's the point. That's the point. Because it was wild and silly, and it's young, it's entertained. What were you going to say, Jack? Did you have?
Oh, I forgot what I was about to say, but yeah, I mean, I was thinking about, because I grew up in the 80s too. I'm y'all's age. I'm just about a year or two younger, maybe. Okay. But my favorite 80s movie, scary movie, hands down, or any kind of, nostalgic movie was The Lost Boys. The Lost Boys with vampires. Okay.
Oh,
That with Kiefer Sutherland. Oh my God. He was so cute back then. Okay. And, probably is still cute. I don't know. I don't watch TV anymore, but,
he's kind of a jerk on set, but
oh really?
I know. I've heard that about him a lot. That one tall brother said he couldn't stand him. Yeah,
he's a jerk. He's an algae too, so I think he's just like
what's he like, 5'2" or something?
He's a little man. Yeah, I mean,
Seriously?
well, a little taller than me, maybe 5'6", 7", maybe. I'm guessing.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
I'm taller than most people in Hollywood, I guess. I'm not even that tall. I'm like 5'8".
When you get a tall person, they look odd on TV. I mean, look, you got a couple of them that stand out, like Hasselhoff, Michael Knight. I mean, he's pretty tall and he looked very odd on camera. Jonathan Frakes, Commander Riker, he's kind of tall. It's noticeable when you see these individuals on TV. A friend of mine named Jerry, he passed. He used to write for the Super Friends, and he also did plays in Hollywood. And he had said something to me. He did one that was called Black Magic Woman, that was starred Apollonia Quintero and Luke Skywalker, Mark Hamill. And after that movie, Jerry told me, he said, B, I did that movie and I did the Witchcraft movies. And after that, I started seeing things, like demonic things. He said, people shouldn't be focusing on that. He says, so since that, all I do is write comedies and I don't have any of those problems anymore. I think that's, something to be said about that. And then he told me, he said, pay attention to the doorways on things like, I was one of the brothers that was lying. I watched 90210. I tell everybody I did, but I was one of the brothers that was watching it. And he was saying that show, he said, when they come in the door, look at the doorway. The doorways are very small. They're constructed small. So when they come in, they look all big. I found little stuff like that interesting,
All those tricks of the trade. I've seen it when they're like, pull out the apple boxes, the little crates so that the actors can stand on and, level up when the men are really shorter than the women. They call them lollipop heads too. A lot of them have really big heads and little bodies.
I love it. Hey, I got another movie for you. So you like this one, Jessica? If you like Lost Boys, that's iconic. How about Fright Night, the original?
Oh yeah, I had that written down.
Yeah, I think that's a great movie. Yeah,
that was a good one.
Yeah, probably the best of vampire movies, I would say. Those two.
Yep.
And maybe
don't forget Silver Bullet. I'm just kidding.
Oh, that was Corey Haim, wasn't it?
He was Lost Boys too. He was Lost Boys. He was on my wall in Lost Boys. The poster of him. Corey Haim was my crush, but Lost Boys. Oh my gosh, that was my teen dream movie.
How about Lucas? Like Lucas. The movie Lucas.
Lucas.
Oh yeah, I remember
that
Lucas.
was sad. Yeah,
that's stuff came out about that movie.
Yes,
you made a lot of claims about that one.
Yep, that's why Kiefer too. Yeah, Kiefer there's some rumors there. The crew talk stories, but like with Lost Boys, that was out here. That was Santa Cruz, and there's still stories like those are passed down family stories of vampiric activity and. Vampiric, is that it?
Was that pre Lost Boys? There was rumors about that there in Santa Cruz
already.
Pre Lost Boys, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
They're notorious. It's notorious up there, and it does have a funky vibe. I mean, it does have the eyes on you wherever vibe. And
you mentioned you live in LA. My brother had lived in LA for probably 14 years, moved there. And, you know, he wound up pumping gas at a gas station in Hollywood. And he talks about the people who come through, but then he said, you want to see the oddest thing ever is Halloween in LA.
Oh,
He
yes.
said, you've got so many people that are makeup artists. The average people that work at McDonald's are actors and makeup artists. And you have all these people walking around with these costumes on. And he looks at me, he says, I swear, some of them, they look so real. You think, is that really a costume? And they'll stop and take a picture with you, then they're just gone. He said he really believed that the demonic are walking amongst us on Halloween
100%.
in Hollywood. Yeah.
1,000%. I feel that with all my heart. It is the city of Los Angeles. There's the good and the bad, but there's just a certain juju. I stopped going into West Hollywood for Halloween because it was just too intense, especially being a mom now. And they also do this thing at the Hollywood Cemetery, the Hollywood Forever Cemetery, where Marilyn Monroe is, and all these they do like a drive-in movie. They do the blow up movie screen, and they have a Halloween scary movie there. And there's always an incident, and it's never shut down. Like, they have it come back every year. It's the hottest ticket you can get is to go picnic and watch the outdoor movie in the cemetery. And there's always something. There's like rapes, or someone found in their car. There's someone left, found 3 days later that was missing. Like, there's just always something. And it's a huge to do. Yeah. So the cemetery connections are kind of big, eh? My daughter was telling me about that, about people building on top of cemeteries, and there's always activity. That's Honolulu faceless lady. They were built the drive-in on a old Honolulu cemetery.
Well, don't forget about the movie Poltergeist. Okay, Poltergeist was a huge 80s movie. That was one of my top favorite movies. Okay, with Carol Ann. Okay, going through the TV.
Yeah,
that was a creepy movie, but today,
the guy from Coach. The guy from Coach. I said the guy from Coach. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm just teasing you. Interesting. A lot of negativity befell a lot of the cast from that that show. And the second one, you had the guy, let me in, the old man. He was dying
scary.
in real life. In real life, he was dying. He had some sort of terminal cancer, and that was his last gig he did. So he really looked like that.
Wow.
That's yeah.
Wow. That was up here. I'm in Santa Clarita, and I think that house that was Granada Hills, kind of like by the ET neighborhoods. And, there were two different neighborhoods, but Poltergeist, I think, was around here, if I'm mistaken. But not only that was so hardcore to me. Anything that involved kids in a horror movie, I freaked the F out. It was, and the swimming pool scene. Oh my gosh. I'm still the mud in the swimming pool. I can be jumping in a clean swimming pool, and I still look underwater for bones or something. Something's gonna scare me. And the clown, that's a good one. I didn't even hit that one up.
Oh, clowns. It's fascinating when you start really looking into the contactee scenario, how many contactees absolutely hate clowns. And it's because, a lot of times those that are experiencing the grays, they use clowns as a screen memory several times. So that's somewhat common, So I've known a couple of people that if you post something, they just have absolute hate of clowns.
Barry, I didn't even know that. Okay, I don't think we've talked about this before. And when I was a kid, I've actually mentioned this before, maybe once or twice on my shows. When I was a kid, and I finally started sleeping, I took the downstairs bedroom finally when I was 12 years old or 11, and by myself. And my whole family was upstairs, and we lived out on the farm in the middle of nowhere. And I would wake up at night, and my mom had put these clowns in a rocking chair, like dolls, right across from my bed. And I would wake up at night, and I would see those clowns, and I'd get freaked out by these clowns. So I've never liked clowns. Okay, because of all those clowns that I had in my room. I did not like them. And I think I've been contacted for sure. I've woken up with ETs in my bedroom before. But what if there was some kind of weird connection there?
It seems generational too. I think a lot of 40s, 50s now talk about freaked out by clowns. That might have been their
we also come to the era of John Wayne Gacy, and he was the killer clown. Remember, he did that, and I think they actually made a movie. That movie, It, I think, is supposed to be somewhat connected to him. I think kind of the It was a clown, wasn't it? Similar to that. Yeah. So things like that. Things like that, and those screen memories. And this the hate of clowns. I remember going to it's been a couple decades ago. We went to this wrestling event. My brothers and I enjoyed that, boss man. Anyway, but a clown, it was when the Insane Clown Posse thing was out. And this guy, we're leaving, this guy jumps in front of us, especially in front of my brother, and he's doing this stuff like this, and he's making the poodle with the balloon. And my brother's like, get the hell away from me. And he's kind of a big guy. And the guy came closer, he's twisting the stuff. And my brother just grabbed this clown and slammed the heck out of him on the concrete. I was like, good Lord, brother, what are you doing? I told him to get away from me. I don't like no clowns, man. I don't like that Insane Clown Posse stuff. That's, so it's more common than we think,
Oh gosh, yeah. Clown things. My kids don't trip up too much about it, but now they think about it. I haven't exposed them very much because I don't like clowns. So, like, they just don't like dressed up, things that are not, trying to be funny, but they're not. Like those kinds of things.
I saw somebody say, yeah, I like A&W too. Right on. Somebody had said something. New Orleans is like that too.
Oh,
and
yeah, Alex.
Just before COVID, I actually spoke at a melanin dominant conference in New Orleans, and I walked around Bourbon Street on Halloween. It was during Halloween, and I'll tell you, it was a trip. And there was one individual that walked by me, a Caucasian gentleman, and you would assume he had on stilts. Obviously, I've never, not even in the circus, seen anybody walk like that on stilts. And was very, very bizarre to where, he looked like he could have been an extraterrestrial or some sort of a under earth person. It was just bizarre. So, I'd agree with that comment about New Orleans, and the above level cemeteries kind of trip me out.
Oh yeah.
You mean with the tombstones up, or?
Yeah, just you drive by on the highway, just see them all day. Oh, I wouldn't want to spend the night there or walk through there. I'm good.
Yeah. Well, that's like that apartment. When I went to view it, this had the tombstones flat on the ground, and I lived overlooking a cemetery, but I'm like, what a great park. How did I get lucky to have this unit available? And the guy's just quiet. And finally it registered. I'm like, oh, and then I'm like, quiet neighbors. Hey, like this is fine. But it was different. It was very odd at the cemetery.
That's, something that, we talked about with Dennis Carroll. He discussed that a lot, but where I live, there was tons of Native American bloodshed. And that some of the land here is saturated. So you might get in a house that's on old sacred land and it's really active. I had a friend when I'd actually was recovering from my TBIs. I was at a point where I was out of the hospital and everything. And I was helping a friend move into a house that's down by the river. And, immediately we're unpacking stuff, I start seeing what appear to be children at the peripheral. And, the peripheral you actually see in black and white. It seems like it's in color, but it's actually not. That's why you catch spirits a lot of times in the peripheral. And you know how it feels when you have kids running behind you, like playing jokes? It was just like that. It didn't take long to get outside and move stuff around. These kids are driving by. Oh, you guys are moving in that haunted house. Yeah, no doubt. Kid, I'm not moving in. It's them. But that place was so active. And one night I went spending the night there. And during the morning before I could leave, these spirits were all over me in that house. And what you had was in the basement, you had a type of a shaman that there was a portal down there. And he was literally trapping souls of people that lived there in that house. And I think it was from the colonial days. So you had ones like that were trapped in there, and generation after generation inside this house, and one of them, you move something around, like in the basement, there were these really old Boy Scout uniforms. And my friends moved that, the house got really active then. And they were trying to throw the box out. It got really active, so little things like that, I think people should be aware. And sometimes, you have people say, oh, I cleanse places and do this and that, and they make claims like that. But the truth is that it doesn't work because the land is so saturated that they can't clear it. Little incense and all that doesn't work. You know what I mean? So it's just things to be aware of, where you have to get a whole, about that, Jessica, you have to get a whole team of people in there to actually clear the place. A shaman, a priest, an exorcist, all these things going in and actually multiple times to clear the property.
Holy smokes.
Food for thought, that's all.
Or you could just move out. That's what I did in my haunted house. I was
Did you have
renting
one?
though. Yeah,
Did you
That's
have
wise.
Mhm, mhm.
yeah. Well, I lived in a very haunted house in downtown Atlanta. And it was in an area we called the Ponty Highlands. Back then, it wasn't the Ponty Highlands. I don't know. That's like a hip new name for it. It was a seedy part of town. Okay, now it's like an expensive part of town. But back when I lived there, it was just where all the bars were, the bar district, and some clubs and stuff. And I lived in a very old shotgun type house, which was kind of long. It was a big house, but it was just long. Okay, it looked little in the front, but it was really big if you walked behind it. And I lived in a basement apartment, and you had to kind of walk around the house to get to it. And it wasn't really super easy to get down there, and it was a little creepy. But there were 2 apartments in the basement of this house, and I lived in one of them. And there was occasionally there'd be another tenant in the apartment beside mine, and I would come home at night. Well, I started having a lot of like really weird haunted activity there, from a black mass floated out of my bedroom one day or one night, and it flew past me and it shoved me down. Like it literally shoved my body down where I fell down into my kitchen cabinets, and then it went flying past me into my living room closet. So that happened, and I came home from, I'd be out at night. I like to party, go out and go to the clubs and go, hang out with my friends. And so one of my best friends was with me. I had 2 friends with me actually. And it wasn't uncommon for my friends to crash on my couch. I had a lazy boy and a couch. So they were occupied pretty often, where people didn't want to drive home or couldn't drive home. So they would come and sleep on my couch sometimes. And so we went to my house, and we got there and we heard a buzzing sound when we got to the door. You could literally hear a buzzing sound. And I looked through the window. There was a window at the top of that outside door that led down the hallway to my apartment. And we kept that door locked. Okay. And as we got up to the door, we could see inside. The whole entire ceiling was covered in a blanket of flies. A blanket. You could not see 1 inch of that white ceiling. It was completely black from black flies. And so we were debating as to whether we wanted to go in, but we couldn't drive because we'd been out, we had a couple drinks or something, So we were like, well, but I think we had just enough drinks. We were like, well, let's just run and duck and go to the door. Okay. So I opened up the door. I did a countdown. I was like, 1, 2, 3, let's go. And we ran in and we got to my door. I got in really quick, and we locked the door behind us. My apartment was fine. It was just the hallway. And we heard the buzzing until we all fell asleep that night. And we woke up the next morning and they were all gone.
Jeez.
Yeah. And that happened twice.
Oh,
Twice while I was there. Yeah.
I mean, flies are bad, but I don't know about that bad. It made me think, now I'm thinking of a Jennifer Connelly movie with flies in the 80s. Do you remember that? Yeah. She was young and she like helped someone take down a monster by summoning flies to cover it and take it down. What's like phenomenon or phenomenal?
Sounds like Candyman or something.
Oh no, not Candyman. Oh no.
Yeah.
The only one I can remember involving flies was, of course, the famous Margaret Kidder, Amityville. And the priest up in the room and the flies are in there. And I've seen haunted houses that tend to they have a lot of flies in there, and also sometimes you see that weird kind of soot on like the paintings or on the door handles. It's really like a little black, almost like an ash. It's like some type of ectoplasm. You find that in those places. And the first thing you find that when you're in a haunted house you moved into, you start having plumbing problems. Those things get into the plumbing. They start messing with the plumbing. Then they move over to the garage and start getting in the fluids of your car, sabotage that, and trying to get you out of there. Cost you a bunch of money.
That happened.
Uh-oh.
Did I disappear? Okay, sorry.
That happened. Plumbing? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I woke up one morning and I started smelling this really terrible like sulfuric smell. I guess, but it smelled kind of like acid too. And I woke up in my bed and I looked up to my ceiling and the wall looked like it was bleeding. Like it had blood all over it. And it was just dripping like a slow drip. And the smell was so bad. I had to like evacuate my apartment. It turns out the plumbing had exploded upstairs in the upstairs apartment, and it was rusted, I guess. But I didn't know what this was at the time. I just saw my walls bleeding. Okay, and so I had to evacuate for several weeks, for at least a couple of weeks, until they fixed it. But yeah, it was probably a good thing that I was ran out of there, because I started having dreams about and there was a lot more that happened there too. Okay, like I actually woke up in the middle of the night to my doorbell ringing, and there was a gentleman standing outside my door with black eyes, completely black eyes.
Ooh, creepy.
And yeah, he didn't belong there. Okay, let's just say.
No.
And when I saw him, I knew he had no soul. And I don't think he was on drugs or anything. I don't think. He could have been, but he was like a robot. That's what he looked like a robot. And so I did not let him in. Okay. But yeah. But just weird stuff like that would happen at that house. A lot of weird stuff. And but
Jeez.
yeah.
Now that you're saying that, yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I had dreams. I started having dreams of this old man. And he would never actually talk to me, but I knew what he was saying. Okay. So I remember and I would meet him in my dreams, like at my grandparents' old house and stuff. Like it was weird. And I just tell him, I kept telling this guy, like, look, we're here. Let's just live in harmony. Look, I'm your friend. I'm not here to hurt you. And so he was always washing his hands in the sink for some reason in this dream. But I knew that he was the one that was haunting that house. And when I'd wake up in the mornings, I'd be like, okay, well, I had another meeting with him last night. So,
Wow.
Yeah, it was weird.
Were all these experiences, forgive me if I'm sure you've shared on your channel, all these experiences, did that lead you to start investigating the paranormal, or were you interested in it since a child?
I had already been doing it. I'd already been doing it. I had not gotten deep into it though, because this was right before my brother passed away in a car accident. When my brother passed away, I really got into it. Into like the ghosts, the communicating with the ghosts and things like that. And that's when I started doing Bigfooting and getting out in the field. So this was kind of a precursor to all of that. But I think that it all happened for a reason, because I can talk about it today and I can relate to other people's stories when they're telling me what happened to them. I've already been through that. Okay, I experienced it to the max. Okay, to the max.
Yeah, perfect lady for the job. What got you into the paranormal stuff, Mr. Barry? Because I know you talk about all the things.
I think about birth. Birth, definitely. As far back as I can remember, very strange things was happening to me. We talked about ghosts and hauntings. When I was about 7, I got attacked by an earthbound spirit or a ghost, or maybe it was something worse. But it was in a basement of a house my old house that my uncle was renting. And in the basement, there were like these old washer and dryers, like a few of them that looked like they were Maytag's first edition. And down there, I started getting, felt like I was being bear hugged, and telepathically started picking up, get out, get out. And I was very much not welcome down there. It was cold in there. And, I know now, what I know now, in years later, is that whatever this was, I think it was a person that had died in that house, and probably a molester or something that when they died, they turned into something worse, and I think that those of us that can see, you're like a beacon as you're a kid to those spirits and those earthbounds, and they come right on you all the time, and I think it's really important that we know that and teach our children how to protect themselves. I don't want to go too much into earthbound spirits here, but when I cross over earthbound spirits, it's frightful how many of them, because I'll ask, where'd you join with the client at? And they'll tell you. And how often I get the incubator room, the hospital. And sometimes, they weren't doing good. They didn't do good at the operation, so I was trying to help them. Or sometimes it's, I saw the light. I thought it was a chance for me to reincarnate. So these are things we have to be aware of, because we don't practice putting a bubble of protection around our infants. That's that when they're first born. We really that needs to be a standard practice, especially if they're in that incubator.
Amen. Thank you for that. Barry, I never got to tell you this, but I met you in person for the first time, 2021 in Florida. Do you remember Starseed or the conference there in Cocoa Beach.
Absolutely. I remember sitting
Yeah.
with you and who looked to be your sister, Liz. You and Liz look like you could be related sisters.
That was an adventure. That was real. That was pretty cool. That was an interesting trip. But I remember talking. I don't know if Matthew Morning or somebody was with, and that's when they introduced me to you. And they're like, "Hey, what is Heidi's Gift? You know, what do you see in Heidi?" And I'm like, "I was just volunteering. I didn't know. I don't know what I do." And you just took a moment, and you're like, "Can you see people cross over? Do you connect to the other side?" I'm like, not that I know of, but you were just like, look into that or something. And so from that moment on, I started going pow, pow, pow. My childhood, like all these experiences where I'm like, oh my goodness. Yeah, I felt the veil was thin. And you also told me when you were giving your lecture, I think it was about that childhood protection. So I wound up going home and started working, making sure I was protecting my own kids. But I also started working with it more. I can really pick up on my dad. My grandma just passed, had a moment with her. And I always think of you for that. So thank you for that. Thanks for helping me narrow in on something.
It's interesting because it's much closer than we think. And sometimes it's when dealing with earthbounds or angelics too, it's the subtlety, the subtle things that they do that communicate with us. Like, for example, you start somebody, that passed, suddenly you start thinking about them, or you see, you hear a song comes on that reminds you of them. And these little synchronicities come, bam, bam, bam. That really is them trying to communicate with you from the other side. It's very interesting, I give an example. We're talking about earthbounds. I've told the story before, so I don't want to be too repetitive. But one of the clients I had a few years ago, the spirit, the earthbound that was on them, and this is somebody that knew how to protect themselves, all right, but they went in for a surgery and picked one up. And this earthbound is a female, and I could tell she's one of them sisters that was kind of maybe what do you want to call it, a holy roller? One of the sisters that stood up in church. You could tell she got everybody's attention, and she kept saying there were others trying to join with the client, but they weren't strong enough. But I was, so I did, and I'm trying to get home now. And so before I got her, she's about to cross over, I said, okay, by the way, you kept saying others in the room were trying to join with the client. How many? Oh, somewhere between 32 and 37, I think they said, something like that. But 32 and something, another 30. And I said, whoa. And that just like, you know what I mean? It takes a whole nother thing to it. How many earthbounds are actually in the hospital?
Wow.
I've been in a place before when I was trying to help someone I knew they didn't cross, and they were kind of hiding from me. They hid from me at the funeral. So what I did is I hypnotized another medium and have them help to cross this individual. I went in, got them, and brought them to the place. But when I went in and got them and brought them to where I was in this apartment complex on the river, it filled up with earthbounds. I mean, it's like the Whoopi Goldberg thing almost. They're in there all wanting to be, some were just wondering what the heck was going on. Some were wanting to be crossed. And I crossed a few of them. And I said, wait a minute, no more. Y'all got to leave. And what happened is my friend was standing behind them, behind them, letting me deal with the crowd and standing behind trying to hide. And eventually when I got the others out, I was able to get them crossed over. But it's situations like that. And I said before, we have so many earthbounds walking earth that there's numerous as the living population. They're almost equal. There may be even more, and sometimes, and I'm getting this concerning you, Heidi, that sometimes when you were younger, you had a problem telling living from the dead. Sometimes they appear to be living, walk someone like a bum or somebody walking, and you think, well, this is somebody's doing bad, but the truth is it's an earthbound. I had one, I do these walks at 4 a.m. I survive traumatic brain injury walk every morning. But so I do this walk, and I have a gentleman. It's on a Sunday, and it's about 3:30 in the morning, 4, and he's walking on the other side of the street, the sidewalk. A Hispanic gentleman, short, with a city coat on, the city workers thing on. I was like, it's very odd for somebody to be walking. He's walking by looking at the sewers. That's just very odd for someone to be doing that at this time of the morning. And not just that, he wasn't paying much attention to me. I've got on all black too, so people watch when I'm walking at night, So yeah, and he's not paying attention to me. I maybe heard the noise, look back. A second at most, 2 seconds maximum. He was in the middle of the street and he's just gone. Nowhere, even if he was Carl Lewis, could he have sprinted anywhere. And I'm telling you, he appeared to be a corporeal person. And it took for me to get older to realize sometimes I was seeing these people that weren't what they appeared to be. You know what I mean? That's just, it's when our pineal glands flow, it's interesting. But I think that might have happened to you more than once. I'm sure.
I had an immediate body reaction when you said that. My body was just like, like I was like, what? So thank you, more guidance. Wow.
It's good work though to try to help, and I think that what we're talking about isn't even the demonic. We're strictly talking about grandma, grandpa that couldn't let go of their house, or your friend that was addicted to something that couldn't let that go. You know what I mean? These are things that keep us here. It's so much easier to get trapped here, earthbound, than we would ever think, because our will is stronger than we think. We get to a point to where you're operating and you no longer have a physical brain, but your energy fields, your consciousness is still trying to process the energy fields you're encountering the same way that the brain does. You know what I mean? So that can lead to a type of being lost, darkness, these things that they say. A lot of those earthbound say that it's very dark here until I join with such and such. And then I kind of live through them. It is what it is.
Yeah. As far as them getting stuck, do you think there's also a choice of like trying to stay or they don't know they're dead? You've probably run into a lot that just don't even know they're not.
I talked to Jessica about this one. There's a lady I crossed, this earthbound I crossed over. She was young. She's like 19. She went to the bluegrass festival we have here in a couple of another city. But they said, well, actually, I had an argument with my boyfriend. We're all out there partying on the beach. We had an argument, and I just went and floated on the raft, and she fell asleep on it and rolled off it and drowned. But what she says is, I fell asleep and I woke up and my friends are trying to resuscitate somebody on the beach. So I jumped in, swam over there and tried to help. And when I get up there, it's me. And then that light came. So I ran into the field and squatted down, and eventually it went out. Finally, it went out and went away. Now, when hearing something like that, for using a good 90s movie reference, let's use Ghost. When Patrick Swayze comes out of that movie theater with Demi Moore and they're talking about the boring movie, yada, yada, and then they get robbed. And you hear the gun go off and you see him chasing after the guy. But when he goes back to Demi, she's trying to resuscitate him. He's going, what? And then the light started coming. He says like a panoramic life review real quick. And then the light starts coming. He's going, what is this? And it's the circles, the orbs are coming. He starts going, no. He started running towards his body. And finally the light went out. I've had numerous earthbounds describe that to me, running from it or saying no or going away from it and using their will to not go into the light. And then you've got these, I'm sorry, I'm going to say it, these fools that have these platforms, large platforms, telling people, don't go in the light. It's a reincarnation cycle trip. And the stuff that they're telling people, in all these crossings I've done, I have one time to have one person tell me that they were forced to reincarnate here. They're forced to incarnate somewhere else by the light or any of that. There's an incorporation of soul life memories. Then when you go back to what actually Ray Hernandez, everybody calls the mind of God, which is actually these black holes, but that's a whole nother thing we'll talk about another time. But actually there is this repository that actually takes your soul life memories, well, not soul life memories, life memories from that life. And it stays in that repository. Then you're wiped clean. You're sent back to incarnate somewhere else. You choose to come back. And it's so you can learn. I had a hard time accepting that. I thought that, I always had that this was a prison planet of lost souls, forced reincarnation for a lot of us. Not the case a lot of the time, not the case. You got these people, don't go in the light. And what that does is create more work for people like us because it makes people earthbound spirits. It's terrible advice. And they say that when they've not had a near-death experience themselves. They're not mediums, but they're faking it, okay? And they're hearing what other people are saying and just spreading that, and it's causing a big problem. Just wanted to throw that out because I think it's a major problem right now in these communities. I hear that. And people are looking at me. It's interesting. Without ever saying names, those people that say that avoid the light and hide from light, they avoid me like the plague, especially at these conferences.
Wow. Telling. Yeah. 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 I'm going to bite my tongue on that one. I got a lot to say about that one.
It's always because Spirit always shows me stuff. I was at that Vegas conference, and there's an individual that avoided me like the plague. Okay. I don't care for them anyway. And I just left it at that. I'm leaving, about to check out of the hotel, and I was at a high level. So I'm in the elevator, and these two older people in there. And they're like, they're pushing in their 70s probably. And they said, we just come from a wonderful conference in this hotel. It was 3 days long, 4 days. I said, actually, I've spoken to that. They said, really? And the lady puts her thing, and then she's kind of shaking her head. And I said, something wrong? Well, that's the last speaker that we saw. What? They were telling people they're telling us don't go in the light. It's a reincarnation cycle, and we're going to get trapped and all this stuff. And she looks at me and said, it just didn't feel right. I said, oh, that individual, that's why they've been avoiding me. I get it now. Food for thought. Spirit will show you things always, and it puts certain things on Front Street. And right now, we're in a war. It's a war between light and dark. It's real. Evil and good. It's a war going on here. You can see it. You can see it in these communities, especially with the people with the platforms. It's all this character assassination, all these things that's taken away from the work. It's horrible. So I just want to throw that out and food for thought for everybody.
I love this. You guys see my last few posts. Yeah. You're speaking my language, Barry.
I put out a video, Heidi, about a week ago. Jessica, you saw it. And it was about the rewriting of the contactee narrative. And I know it's not popular, what I said, but it's true. I mean, you can see like the hijacking of this entire narrative. And yes, there are negative encounters going on. There is SSP stuff going on. All right. But that is not the majority. The majority is actually positive contact like I've had. And I got laughed at when I first started talking about it. So I didn't have negative contact. People didn't really like it. But the truth is there's more people like me than the other. But you don't hear about that. You hear about the graphs that Ray Hernandez did. 4,800 experiencers took those surveys. And what you start seeing is the data shows something totally different. It's not what the media is showing at all. So I think that needs to be addressed. And this whole thing, like, for example, since childhood, I've had a vision of probably in about, 10 major cities, these Legion ships showing up, and the vibration that they emit themselves nullifies some fear, and it just changes things. They're like, for 2 minutes, people can see these crafts and they're gone, but it changes things. The same way it was changed in First Contact Star Trek when the Vulcans came, similar to that. But now what you're getting to actually counteract that timeline I've seen is, the fake alien invasion. The people are just talking about that and taking that to the next level. Fake alien invasion. Well, Greer said it, so it must be real.
Sorry. Yes.
But what that does is throw in the timeline. What I saw possible intervention, it's being corrupted. And Jessica and I talk a lot about these timeline jumps, these time edits, these time shifts that occur during high solar activity. And we're having that high solar activity right now. So we all need to pay attention. Are you getting deja vu? Are you, is your ESP up? Are you stressed out? These are things that come with the solar cycle. And it's one that they've always tried to throw us to a timeline of nuclear war. So we got to be aware of that and try to stop this. It comes up again and again,
Yeah. I call it regurgitates. They do the same storylines. It just comes in a different way. I'm like, we're back to this again. New package, new speakers. Same thing.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Hello again. I'm sorry. I'm not totally paying attention to the chat. Hi, sweet peas. Thank you very much for being there. Sandy Joy says there was info about an island where past people go. Military there do what can't say here. Oh, sorry. I misread that. But have you guys heard of that? Of a military island where past people go and then military mess with them? Is there? Or did I misread that a little bit? Sandy, thank you for that. Yeah, I think I'm pretty behind in the chat though here. Barry, I'm telling you, all the stuff you're saying resonates big time with me. Big time. I'm grateful. I knew some golden nuggets would come out here.
It's important because like where I met you, it's those conferences are important in terms of it's not about the speakers, it's about the audience. I mean, there's so many people awake in those conferences that every one of them should be up there talking before me. You know what I mean? So I think, but it's a chance to meet and share minds. And it's like, you know, kind of like, okay, all right. They want me to say it's like Odo. You remember the last episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine? Did you watch that?
I didn't. I wasn't a big Star Trek, but I know some of them. Go ahead. Sorry, Jessica,
The guy,
did you?
Renee
No.
Aberjonis from he was from Benson and also Soap. You remember those TV shows? Soap.
Oh,
Right?
sure.
Yeah,
Totally.
it was pretty corny. And Benson,
Benson,
anyway, he was from those, but he played this changeling named Odo. And their real form was the Great Link. It was gelatinous. But as shapeshifters, they were against solids, as they called, because solids used to hunt them and don't trust them. Okay. So they were infected by the Federation with some type of a virus that infected their Great Link. But Odo got cured and had the cure in him. And when he touched another changeling and link with them, he could cure them. So he went back to the Great Link and you see him dissolve into it. And he's a golden color. The Great Link had turned black. It's a golden color. He goes into it and he's the golden color. You start seeing spread across the link. Ooh. He went to heal them all. I mean, that's what I think people like us and these communities are doing as far as spreading the knowledge. You know what I mean? Sorry, long way of putting that. But, but I think it's the same thing. And it's really a chance. I think we're being given with people like Jessica's kid and your kids, a chance for humanity to save itself. You know, to keep our stewardship of the earth. Because we all three of us know that there's a whole ton of entities, other civilizations, dimensional, outer space, and multidimensional that are ready to take over the stewardship of this planet. They'd love to have it. They'd love for humanity to finally just destroy ourselves completely. And, you know, that's what I think we have to stop now. And maybe this doesn't have to be such a prison planet feeling place. Maybe it's the time to change into a type 1 civilization again. Really hope so. May not live to see it, but I hope so.
I know. You brought up an important thing about conferences and meeting people. I always thought, too, it's the way to get a really good read on somebody. Are they as authentic in person as they are in what they sell online kind of thing? Jessica, you were so close. We were in the same time zone. And I'm like, I can't get to Reno. But I also feel your authenticity. I've been, I think there were 500 subscribers at the start when I was jumping on there. And I'm like, I can feel you. Like your authenticity shines through there. But you are speaking, aren't you both speaking soon in Appalachian? Is that at the Appalachian one or Florida? Or am I
both?
Not to end anything, just you're both speaking soon.
Yeah, we're both speaking. Well, the first one is going to be next month. Well, actually, I'm speaking at a UFO conference next weekend here in Georgia. But then we're going to Florida, July the 15th through the 18th at the Full Disclosure Now Movement Conference. And that's out in St. Pete Beach, I think, and near Tampa. Barry and I will both be there. And then we're going in August to, it's near Asheville, I think. I'm not sure. Fort something. I can't remember the name of it. But we're in North Carolina.
Asheville.
Asheville. I think it's near Asheville. I'm not sure though. But we're going to the Appalachian Starseed Reunion. Just look that up online, y'all. You can find it there. It's on my website, thecryptidhunters.com. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, the Now one. That's like a bunch of you. That's like a FOMO one. That's a big old one.
Yeah, it's a lot of speakers.
Yeah. Well, that's going to be cool. I those are those bits I love. But you are legendary in that sense that those who have met, you're like, oh, it's like you're talking to her right through the screen. Like you are who you represent.
Oh,
and so many of them aren't. It's
that's
surprising.
I mean, I'm not going to say that's true. Like I'm calling anybody out, but there's been at least one or two, Barry. You and I have been together. We've been like, oh man. That's not who. Okay, I'm not going to go there. Okay,
I know. I can.
One
version I can remember. Okay.
It's the term that I stole from Doctor Who. I talk all the time. Artron energy, and when somebody has actually been on one of these craft that's dealing with these wormholes, these black holes, or they've been around these beings that have that Kundalini type of a orgone energy about them, it radiates the cells of the body of the contactee. And when I get around another contactee, I can feel it a lot of times. And I know this is a contactee. and then I get around some of these people with these huge platforms that make huge claims of contact that's like, whoa. And you get around them, they have no Artron energy. Why not?
Yeah.
And then and that's what you're talking about there. When I came into contact, I will throw this name out because I don't really care. When I actually met Corey Good at this conference in SETI in 2019, and the guy is talking me to death when he finally showed up. You know what I mean? And it's cool, but the first thing I had to do when I get done dealing with this ridiculous, devilish Australian coming over here telling me, bro, you gotta go meet him. He's got the Artron energy, like you talk about. He's got the Artron energy. And we're walking. I stopped. I broke my sunglasses. I said, man, are you swinging? He's what? I think swinging from the guy's nuts, man. Come on, you sound like that. And then we get over there, okay, and I sit down. I can't hardly see him good because the sun is right there, and it's a nightmare, And after I get done speaking, at those conferences at first, I could always move around. No one knew who I was. When I get done speaking, people want to talk to me. So I was waiting. There's people waiting, and I kind of nodded to him, and he jumps up and runs around the table and tries to give me a hug. Now, for beautiful ladies like you, I'll give some hugs, but I'm not really the hugging type for dudes, And I went ahead and let him do it because I knew I'd get a good read on him. And the first thing I felt was Artron energy on him. So I had to say, oh, no. So despite all the bureaucracy around that individual, I had to accept that he was a contactee of some type. I could feel it. So just food for thought on that, you know what I mean? But then there's others that you meet, they don't have that at all. And I think that says a lot. And some of these people that they believe what they're happening to them is real, but they're interacting with the simulation. That simulation stuff and dream technology right now, they call it engineered dreaming and dream incubation. That turns dreams into reality. Dreams into memories and memories into reality. So they're going to think that's real. And they'll tell you, well, I'm an SSP, but there's another me doing this. The other me can build ships and flies with hybrids and yada, yada, yada. And you know what I mean? But it's the other me. That's its prime example of some type of a brain-to-brain interface, a hive mind thing. It's real. And I know I've said that in a nice video, and I know a lot of people don't like it. I'm not trying to put down people's experiences, but it needs to be realized that it's a rewriting of the narrative going on. It's big. And right now, this field is new, and you can come in it with no credentials and be famous just by using your phone, the camera on your phone.
Yep.
But that leaves a lot of discernment needs to be used, a lot.
Yes. You're saying what I've been trying to say. You say it eloquently, but yes, you're speaking my language. Yep. I've seen someone shift and start walking like an octopus, for real. And I still see them so big, and I'm like, I had to put you to bed. I couldn't hold you. You were turned into another being. And then their face, I was like, and I was sober. So anyway, take that for a grain of salt because I'm just Heidi Pop. I don't have much. Anyway, nostalgic 80s. I've been dying to ask you this, and Jessica, forgive me. I'm sure you've done this on your show, but as a kid, so I've had my Wisconsin experiences in Illinois, but I'm Pacific Northwest baby too. That's my Bigfoot. I talked with you on your show. But I forgot about the ghost story of the Bat Squatch. Did you talk about the Bat Squatch?
That's Barry's favorite. Maybe he should talk about them.
I'm sorry, Barry. Well, here's the thing. I watched Mount St. Helens erupt. Our house was like the view of Portland, and we watched it erupt in 1980. I was a kid. And then I put a scarf around and I sled in the ash for like a week on our driveway. I'm still alive. But after that, when we go to Bend and Mount Bachelor and Three Sisters and go camping, we were outdoorsy. It was all the stories and the sightings of the Bat Squatch, and it came after Mount St. Helens erupted. So I was like, is that related? So I guess that's Barry's one too.
It's just that when John Vivico was the first person to tell me that word, Bat Squatch. I must have laughed for 15 minutes. I said, are you serious? Said, really, it's like a Mothman is what it is. That's okay. I said, Bat Squatch. Oh, Lord. By the way, Tom Powell says that Mount St. Helens, that the lava tubes, that Sasquatch use those.
Oh, okay. I wouldn't be surprised. A lot of Sasquatch activity up there. You mean used them like a water slide? Or like
I kind of thought that maybe he might meant like they kind of use them for like cabins or something like that, almost live in them. sometimes. That's what I thought he was kind of alluding to, you know. So many things he said about Sasquatch just blew me away anyway, that it was, you know, that took me to another level. Like he's looking at me going, you know, Barry, you ever think that maybe he talks like maybe you might be a Sasquatch whisperer? I was like, what? He said, maybe you should write a book on him. I'm like, I've had interaction with him, but I've never actually seen one. He said, I don't think it matters. You seem to know a lot about him, as much as anybody I've met. I was like, really? And he said, somebody like you should go to the forest and take a trash bag with you and start picking up trash. You'll get their attention, just like that. I was like, okay. He's saying stuff like that really kind of takes it to a different level. Ray Crow type of stuff, Jessica.
Yeah, that's what my buddy Terry Wendell with Rock Hill Bigfoot out of South Carolina. He goes out with my team quite a bit. His number one thing that he likes to do is to take a trash bag to the woods and pick up trash, because he gets a lot of activity, especially later that, you know, in the night. He'll be in his little tent cot, which is like a modified coffin, in my opinion. Okay, they're just like a long cot, and it has a tent over it, so it's really tiny. And one night he was sleeping. He was investigating a person's property for a Bigfoot, and he woke up to a finger poking him through the tent after he had been picking up trash around the area all day. I mean, it pretty much, I'm not going to say it guarantees a Bigfoot experience, but it makes it more likely, because you're showing them some respect. So they're going to come and either thank you or scare you. I don't know, either one.
Well, it's like you have somebody come in your house and playing maid, they're cleaning your house. You're probably appreciative. You know, and so it's such a big crib they have, but it is what it is, right?
It is what it is. Oh, so then, okay, so I just heard those stories as a kid at the campfire, some bad squash, and I'm like, wait, what? But then I related to, you know, this volcanic eruption. You never know. The underground's disrupted. Did something come up and out? Like, who knows? Who knows? But it was talked about. It was talked about in all those little communities. And I guess there's sightings up until 2019, supposedly. So, yeah.
I mean, this thing, it was supposed to be huge. I actually have not done a show on Bat Squatch yet. Okay, so that's one of them that I have not. So that would be a cool remote viewing target, actually. But they said that this thing was, it kind of sounded like a Mothman thing, but it from some accounts, but other accounts, it sounded like a Bigfoot with pterodactyl wings that spanned like 50 feet or something. So that's like 25 feet on each side, basically. That's huge. Okay. And it had the ability to shut down car engines, I think. So it had that paranormal aspect, that supernatural element going on with it too. So there's no telling what's coming up from the inner earth. You know, I think a lot of these beings are what Barry calls ultra terrestrials. Okay, they're living underground, and they come out when things happen like that eruption.
That makes sense.
Cryptoterrestrials, that's right. Cryptoterrestrials.
Cryptoterrestrial. The same one, there was a spotting at Shasta too. So not just Mount St. Helens, but Shasta. So, you know, it's just maybe going around the portals of the mountains. I don't know.
You know, Heidi, something that I think is definitely worthy of mentioning is that a lot of these blind targets I've get Jessica, you know, these underground laboratory keeps coming up a lot. And sometimes it's like when I gave her the blind target was UG99, the rust virus, the wheat rust virus. And when she's viewing that, she's talking about, and the origin of this is, it was actually seen in biblical times. So it goes way back. And she's talking about this laboratory, underground laboratory. She had no idea what she's looking at. So that shows you how long that's been going on. They've been doing these lab demonic stuff down there since biblical times. So we get a lot of these cryptids that are coming from that. Now you've got Big Brother that's working with them, and you have people that are starting to see these beings, these Bigfoot being tested and other cryptids being tested that they're making. I'm pretty sure of that. You know, we've discovered that much. I'll give you an example. I gave Jessica, one of the first targets I gave her was the chupacabra. And it was a blind target. And I did it because John Vivinco, we talked about that and did a video that he had his team that looked at the chupacabra. And I wanted to see as a blind target if she got similar data. And she did. She got a hurricane like they did. Okay, she got a laboratory being destroyed. And that's what John has said. He said that it was a laboratory that got hit by the hurricane that year, and these things got loose. And, you know, so I get online, I start looking it up, you know, and look up, and there was a hurricane in Puerto Rico, where Chupacabra was seen. There's a hurricane there called Hurricane Carolyn during that same year that the Chupacabra came around. So then I just got on Google and just typed in Puerto Rico and genetic labs, and all this stuff comes up, all these different companies. Wow. And you can trace some of them back to 94, existed then. Food for thought again. You know, this is things that the remote view, the data shows us. Yeah. Data's cool, you know.
Totally.
I remember some of the data even included, I wrote down Noah's Ark. Okay. So remember there was going to be, I mean, Noah built the ark for a flood, and he put 2 of each, you know, species on his boat and stuff. I mean, it kind of has some symbolism there. Okay. There's some symbology there. With the Noah's Ark aspect, but I was also picking up on data where I told you I thought I was remote viewing a dinosaur because it was actually a mammal, or I wrote down marsupial and reptile together, and so I was super confused about what I was looking at. Okay,
that was another hit right there, because John had said that they were marsupials. They saw that, and more than that, he said that when the child actually emerges from the pouch to separate, the mother kills it, eats it. And that's a problem that they were having with those things, is what John said. And you picked up a lot of that. I mean, you can't fake that stuff.
I'd be super curious if you've ever got any hits on the underground, that cemetery by the airport or Lake Balboa, because those military trucks they're like those pictures of what's not supposed to be here. You know, it makes
Did you say
sense.
Lake Balboa? Is that what you said?
Lake Balboa. Yeah, that's one of them.
Is it Rocky?
No, not oh no, not Rocky Balboa.
You smelling?
Lake Balboa is between Encino, like Encino Man, and like Van Nuys, and it's over there on the west side of the 405. And then on the east side, there's that cemetery in Clybourne and Burbank Airport, and the weird activity, and where I saw that running potentially dog man person. So I don't know. There's just a lot going on under there. As much as we're like the city of Los Angeles and all, the dark activity here, there's so much light. So as we're just keeping it down, keeping it grounded. But I'd be very curious about underneath the valley, because there's just these pockets of areas. It's like, this is not like the others. And why is it here? And I've asked friends who are in, policemen, and we're in a first responder neighborhood, and they don't talk about what's happening in Lake Balboa, what that little area is. And all I think of is Max Spears and like, oh, it's connected to something. That's something. And I don't know. Just curious.
Probably. I mean, so Barry gave me a really interesting remote viewing target. He gave me 2. Was it for last week or week before last? It was 2 weeks ago. We talked about the missing persons clusters with the David Paulides series, where all these people are going missing from our national parks. And now if you actually line up the maps of the missing persons, the clusters, with the map of the deep underground military bases, with the map of the cave systems and the Bigfoot sightings and the UFO reports, they all correlate. They all are the same map. Mm-hmm. There's the same concentrations on those maps, okay, in the same areas. Mm-hmm. So there is some sort of a connection there.
Oh, I got, yeah, definitely. Definitely. In our parks too, we have massive ones, the Sequoia and all these huge national parks. But like we were talking about with Hollywood and Halloween, I know the underground belly is just, there's a huge system under there. And I think the critters come out at night. There's so much activity, and the stuff that happens is not national news. I don't know, because it's so common. Like, it's not like you get it on your news channel or popular. It's like amongst the whispering, like, my friend's still missing, and you're in Facebook groups and it's not blown up, but they're like, oh, they found her, she's dead in a car. It's antics happen. And I mean, it's always traced back to, oh, just drugs and drunk people. And I'm like, really? What was that 10-foot person? Like, just jumped over a tree, weird stuff happens. That's crazy. That's more campfire-y stuff. Yeah.
It's creepy. That's very creepy. It makes you want to stay away from there. It makes me want to stay away from there.
It does. Hi, Tanya. Nice to see you. What is the wildest RV target Barry's given you, Jessica?
Well, I can tell you one of my favorites was Mel's Hole. Mel's Hole. That was a good one. I mean, it was really funny. We couldn't stop laughing from saying we had remote viewed Mel's Hole. It sounded weird. But yeah, that was a good one. And so Barry, do you want to discuss that? Because that's a really good one. Our friend Tanya Braddock actually remote viewed it too. So 2 of us remote viewed it, and then we did a show together, all 3 of us on it. So it stems from Art Bell's show, by the way.
Okay.
What the data showed about that hole is that it operates similar to what's called a Tipler cylinder, which is actually a time device, time science, and a rotating cylinder is what it is.
Yeah.
And they both kept picking that up, and that it's rotating deeper down in there, and it's quite interesting, and it also explains a lot of the anomalies that are seen around that hole, if that's a time type of device there.
Okay. Is this Washington, like up Pacific Northwest, right?
Yes.
I think it was.
Yeah,
And there's a TV
Bird.
show. There's a show I can't remember the name now, but with Josh Brolin. Have you heard of that one? They say, I think this sounds like Mel's hole. I think that was it. And it's a hole in the ground it's a time loop thing.
Yeah.
You get thrown into. Okay.
Yeah, that's what this was. It was basically, I kept picking up on a wormhole. Okay, it's a wormhole. And yeah, the government did swoop in and confiscate that land eventually. Okay. And it's blurred out on maps. You can't find it on maps. There's no picture of it. I mean, I've seen countless videos on Mel's Hole now, but none of them are actually Mel's Hole. There's no pictures of Mel's Hole anywhere.
And he's a guy that just came on Art Bell. He wrote to Art Bell, and Art had him on like twice, maybe 3 times. The 3rd time he's saying that he got beat down in Australia, lost his teeth or something like that. But, very, very interesting. And I think that what was maybe is the most interesting part of that story is the ice that they lowered down into as low as they could get the fishing line down there. And when they bring it back up, it's glowing. And it's almost like what do you call it? Cold ice.
Dry ice?
Yeah. Similar to that, but it's emitting like an energy.
It was hot.
And one of the gentlemen took it to his cabin and used this thing as an energy source for his cabin, and it burned down into the ground, and that's when the military came and got it. Now, there's this tumor seal that supposedly came out of this. What was it they lowered down there, Jessica? It was a goat.
It was a sheep. There was a sheep, a lamb, like a baby. I think it was a baby sheep.
Yeah. They bring it up, and it's got a bulge on it. It's dead. And they cut it open, and this seal comes out, this tumor seal, they call it, with human eyes. And they wanted to kill it, but they didn't, and it goes over the hole and jumps back into the hole. Now, you've got the Basque people that live around that area claim that seal communicates with them through the radio, like AM or something. And it was warning them about that ice, saying that ice could destroy our whole planet. And it's very dangerous.
Whoa.
So there again, food for thought.
I mean, so of course they're going to weaponize that. They're going to weaponize it.
Well, you start hearing things like the inner sun, the inner Earth sun, and all that. And they call it the smoky god. I think they called it in Admiral Byrd's book. That sounds a lot like this ice, doesn't it? Food for thought again.
Oh, gee. So speaking of ice and like 80s movies, what about The Thing? That was in Antarctica. Do you remember that one?
That was one of the better remakes, wasn't it? That was a good remake.
I didn't see the remake. I mean, the old one. Are you talking about? Was it made again? I'm talking about that old one.
The original Thing was a black and white movie, and then they remade it. Kurt Russell and them did the remake, and it was a good one. I thought it was good.
Oh my gosh, that my babysitter had me watch that. I think I was like 8. I was like,
the dog part kind of sucked.
Oh gosh, I just have a fear of dogs. I didn't even see Cujo yet. And I'm like,
oh really? Hey, something about Cujo. Most of that was a guy in a suit. That was not a real dog. I'm serious. I got pictures of the guys out there dancing around in the suit, and with Dee Wallace from E.T. She was in that, and the other guy. That was a lot of those scenes was not a real dog. It was a guy in a suit. Yeah.
That got me. That was a good. Was that 80s? Was that 80s
or
90s? That was 80s.
Yeah, because those are two of her best movies. Dee Wallace. She's a big time meditator and yoga person. Advanced like pranayama and stuff. I heard her doing an interview. Wow. She's quite impressive. She looks still good for her age too.
Man.
But yeah, it's Cujo, E.T., and she was in another movie. What was the other one? The third. Oh, the howling. She turned into the little poodle. Remember at the end?
Oh my gosh, that was a good movie. You know, so I really, of course, researched werewolves and things like that. And there's this one guy that I really like listening to, that Bill Schnoebelen or Schnoebelen. I don't know how you pronounce his last name, but he did this lecture at the Prophecy Club, and he was talking about how, you know, once he was part of the Church of Satan or Brotherhood of Satan or something like that. And once you reach a higher level, you have the option to turn into a werewolf or a vampire. And he had chosen to turn into a vampire. Okay. But he was talking about a lot of people don't want to turn into a werewolf because it hurts your body so bad. And he said that he believes that scene from The Howling, where the guy turns into, I think the first time when the guy turns into a werewolf was actually a real guy turning into a real werewolf, is what he was saying. So
okay,
it was
I hate to stick holes in that. But that actor was actually Robert Picardo, who's the doctor on Star Trek Voyager. He's not a werewolf. I personally think that I was traumatized when the guy was, I'm a doctor, he's a Dr. Pepper doctor. He was the Dr. Pepper guy. Next thing you see him, he's wolfing out on TV, and that movie was about the most painful, I think, transformation we saw. It's like, he's, I think that one still holds up today to a degree, you know? I mean, I was traumatized. I was like, that's a Dr. Pepper guy. He wolfed out bad. He gave it to Michael Jackson, turned him into some sort of cat being in Thriller. I was like,
that was good. Yeah. That was my favorite. That was the best. That was we actually had the making of Thriller on VHS tape at my house, and my brother especially used to watch it religiously. We would come home from school to watch the making of Thriller.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's where Michael Jackson is sliding around the floor, and Landis is saying, this is Michael Jackson right here. He's sliding around with a nice jacket on. That one, right? The making of Thriller. Yeah.
Man, no, listen, I just like the breakdancing zombies. That was my favorite part. Okay, so
such a good routine. Such a good routine. I think we've all tried to do that on the dance floor.
I know the whole routine. Yeah.
And it's really set off by Vincent Price's voice. Really made it great, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. With the I'm thinking of the painful werewolf thing. Have any of you seen now? It's a new one, Wolf Like Me. Takes place in Australia, and it's the redhead, like it's great. It's a TV show. They're waiting for season 3 now, but it's a woman who's a werewolf, hides herself, and the man who plays the voice in Frozen, the snowman guy, he's in it. Sorry, I have no names right now. I'm not thinking clearly. But anyway, they show the transition into the and it looks painful as hell. And the very last cliffhanger is she's pregnant. And they're trying to make sure, and the boyfriend knows she's a werewolf once a month. They're trying to make sure she has the baby when it's not on the full moon. And of course, sure enough, she goes into labor. She's starting to have the baby. And the cliffhanger is the baby comes out and the baby's a wolf attached. And they're like, is it going to be a baby? Is it a wolf? And they leave it. But the sounds, the jaw going, for a TV show, it's a pretty crazy transition. One to look at, I think.
There are a couple TV shows that I really liked back in the 80s that just didn't make it, but they were about extraterrestrials. One of them was called The Phoenix, and it starred Judson Scott. It's also known as Khan's son in Star Trek II. Judson Scott. It maybe ran like 6 or 7 episodes, and what he was from the Aldebaran, around Aldebaran. They'd been here before and interacted with the Egyptians, and he had this golden medallion that had a phoenix on it, and was some sort of a transformer of sun energy. And he also had telekinesis and other things. And it was another show that starred Louis Gossett Jr., rest in heaven, rest in peace. It was called The Powers of Matthew Starr. And that's way before he did Enemy Mine with Dennis Quaid, which was a killer movie, I thought. Great movie.
I haven't heard of either one of those.
Yeah, The Powers of Matthew Starr. And he was from another galaxy or something, a planet that he was like a prince or something, and the planet got overthrown. And Louis Gossett was his caretaker and got him out of there and brought him to Earth. So he's got all these abilities that are basically telekinesis, psychokinesis, and that's the whole thing. So he's being hit out by Louis Gossett Jr. Didn't make it very long, but interesting. A lot of those shows that are about positive stuff don't make it. Like, maybe Highway to Heaven, that went on for a little while. And then you got, what's the one with the lady, the Irish lady with Della Reese? What's the name of that show? Saved by an Angel? Touched by an Angel?
Touched by an Angel.
Yeah.
I think that was it.
Not a bad show, but it didn't make it, did it?
I know, it's too positive. You're right. The fear sells. The fear is what sells. And that's circling back to the drive-ins. I always noticed that they'd start with a kid movie, and then it was like the crazy, creepy ones, like, because that's was the big sell at the drive-ins, the fear, the immersive movie experience. Mel's Outer Range. That was the TV show. Thanks, Mike Holt. Outer Range is the TV show that references Mel's Hole. I was talking about it on just a random podcast, and they're like, "Oh, that sounds like Mel's Hole in Washington." I didn't even know it was a thing. So thanks for educating me there. Thank you again for this chat here, peeps. I see you all there. Thank you, Sandy Joy. Yes, she was talking about the island with the military. It's a portal. I'm going to look into that too. And I'm going to try to catch some of this replay.
Now, for food for thought, I gave Jessica a target of the Phantom Islands being High Brazil, and what's the other one called? Anyway, she did the target as a target. So that's on her channel. She remote viewing of the Phantom Islands.
Okay.
And found them to be real. That was quite interesting because I suspected I think they're inner Earth ships that come up every 7 years and have to recharge their solar cells for the solar magnetically charged crystals that operate them. And that's what I think those are. And that's why they come up. The mist around them. The mist is very common if you have a conversion between water and they're taking the orgone, the life energy out of water. It creates a byproduct of mist. And oftentimes those craft will use that as a cloaking device.
Oh,
so all lenticular clouds we see aren't what they appear to be. And even more to the point, if you see a cloud that has just a rainbow stripe in it, okay, little cloud has just got a little rainbow stripe in it. In that cloud, look at it, pay attention to it. That's another product of some of these engines when they're using this conversion. It creates that prism rainbow type of a thing inside of a cloud. Those are the ones you can try to dissipate with your eyes and then watch the ship. Food for thought again,
Yeah. Isn't there a lot of mist in the woods too, Jessica? Like with cryptids and things, there's a mist. It's always misty like this. I mean, not just in the movies, but
it's not always misty out there, but there has been there was one incident that we had up in the mountains one night where I had hiked in with one of my teammates. We had taken a couple of guys with us that weren't part of our team. They wanted to go have a Bigfoot experience. So we were on an expedition. We took them. And as we were kind of walking back down the trail to go back to base camp, we noticed a fog or a mist, a really thick mist. I call it fog, but it was behind it. It was kind of it looked like it was following us. We thought that our eyes were playing tricks on us. And every time we would speed up, this fog would speed up. We'd stop, the fog would stop. So my buddy and I got really nervous because it just didn't seem normal. And so we ended up trucking it out of there, but he took the back and, was ready to protect us from whatever this was. Cause it was literally chasing us and stopping and going with us. Okay. So we got down to base camp and, you just never know what's in it. Like it didn't seem natural at all. And cryptids are known to hide in the fog. Okay. So it could have been that.
Could have been that.
I never had heard that story till I had another blind target, remote view, the Gugwe and the fog of Yellowstone.
Yeah.
And that fog has been reported like much what you had, following people around. And then suddenly this Gugwe is close by that is a very bad Gugwe. So it's just, things like that. And, what was the other thing with it? It was the whispers, right?
The whispers
the whispers. The whispers. That's been reported there back to the days of, the settlers and everybody out there. So,
geez. Well,
I can't remember what she said it was, though. I can't remember. But
I don't know. It's on my channel. It's called Gugwe in the Fog on my remote viewing playlist. If anybody wants to see it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna check that out. I keep thinking of the poof of smoke when what's the little gremlin pops out? Like speaking of all these like horror 80s movies, cryptids, there's only like 2 I could think of that were family friendly: Harry and the Hendersons and Gremlins. And of course, I loved them both. My kids can't be bothered. they're like, what's this puppet? but
Well,
I
actually,
mean, that was
well, the Gremlins wasn't all good though. When they actually turned into Gremlins, they caused a lot of problems, weren't they? They tore that ball, didn't they?
They were creepy.
Can
either of you? Well, speaking of Gremlins, do you remember that little troll that ran around with a spear and like cut ankles and stuff?
Oh my gosh.
That is the
Yeah,
trilogy. It's called
trilogy.
Terror of Trilogy. Trilogy of Terror is what it was. That is called the Zuni Warrior doll. And when she cut it had the golden chain on it, and said, don't release the chain. If you cut the chain, it released the spirit out. And she cut the chain fell off. And next thing you know, the thing is, yeah. That was great, man. There was 2 of them: Trial of Trilogy and Trial of Trilogy 2. The one with the second one is really funny. That thing was really after that woman, because after that lady burned it up, they took it to the lab, and the guy was uncrusting it, and it tried to attack the woman. That's really the Zuni Warrior.
Good gosh, that was another babysitter movie.
Zuni Warrior Fetish Doll. That's what it was called.
Catchy title.
You had to bring that one up. That one had me laughing so much. I
got freaked out.
I remember on the second one, she's closing the door, trying to pull the door open, and she got it out, and it jumps through the window on her. Yeah, I mean, that was a great movie. That's anybody wants to see that one, it'll keep you laughing. It's good.
I should watch this again as an adult. Does your son watch scary movies, Jessica?
Yeah. Yeah, he likes scary stuff. I don't allow him to watch super terrible shows, but scary stuff like that, yeah, he likes. We actually have this little place in town. It's like a salvage type store where they get they have like a whole, we go in there, they have good camping equipment in there sometimes. Okay, so that's why I like to go. But they got a load in where it looked like a video game store had burned down or something, so they had all these old DVDs and stuff. And so we just went in there. You had to put on gloves to search through them because they were full of ash and stuff. But we looked through them, and we came home with like, at least 20 like 1980s, 1990 movies, stuff that I like, but that he wanted to watch. And so we started watching movies, like DVDs and stuff from some of these. So yeah, he's really into it. Even the Gremlins, like you were talking about a while ago. All the stuff I watched when I was a kid, he's pretty much into it now. Yeah, because of that DVD.
Mine aren't. Okay.
Yeah, you need to watch First Blood with your son. He needs to see
We did. I think we bought that one. We haven't watched it yet, but we haven't. We bought it. And this is because of you, Barry. We bought that one.
I promise I won't stand behind the other movies, but the first Blood, the first one is a good movie. I almost guarantee that you like it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. He will. He likes war. He'll like it.
I do remember that on your guys' when you guys were together last. Are you guys are going to be together again soon? Recording yourself?
We do
Yeah.
shows together all the time, man. We always do. Yeah.
Awesome.
I don't know, Jessica. A lot of your audience got mad at me for laughing at the Bigfoot and the snuff story. Like anyone knows that's real. That's not proven. I'm sorry, I don't believe it, but people got mad at me about that. He shouldn't be laughing at that. Well, what? It's a kind of ridiculous story. I just don't buy it. I'm sorry, it pissed people off. I didn't mean to, but I find it comical. The snuff. Like I got away from Bigfoot because I gave him some snuff. Okay. Yeah. People got mad when I said it was a Big League Chew. They thought that was a bad joke. Sorry.
That's tough. I love Big League Chew. That was at the concession stand.
I know. Well, we laugh at silly stuff. I mean, we have people that got upset that we were laughing about remote viewing Mel's hole too, Barry. So it's okay.
They'll get upset because they get triggered. I would rather y'all laugh about stuff that just, again, shows your authenticity. So thank you for just keeping it real and not a facade. You're just being raw and authentic. And yeah, I'm so grateful for that. So,
not everybody's don't like it, and it's okay.
That's okay. That's all right. Yeah. Well, I think they liked this, and I really thank you all for doing this with me. Thank you, folks, to the chat. Thank you for also chatting amongst yourselves. I really didn't chat with you as much as usual, but I was fascinated here. So the next up, folks can see you next weekend, Jessica. Is it Georgia that you said?
Yeah. Well, that's the live event. Yeah, it's June the 29th, I think, that Saturday, up in Clayton, Georgia. I'm going to be speaking at the World UFO Conference up there. Yeah, it's actually that area is where I've had some UFO sightings up there. So where the conference will be, there's going to be a lot of good speakers there. So yeah, that's on the 29th, and then you can see Barry and I both at the Full Disclosure Now conference down in Florida.
Beautiful. And you're doing your own thing there, right? I know. I think I love seeing you guys together, but I know you have your own thing going on. So you guys have your own slot basically there.
I think we're each doing our own, then we're going to do one together too.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Cool.
Oh, I know.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, you'll have to check in with me on the back channel. Let me know if you see any frauds. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Oh no.
I'm taking it back. Barry brought it out of me.
Hey, well, it's cool to be able to be honest about that, because I mean, Jessica's been heckled by some of these people. I've always got crap, especially when I talk about melanin dominant extraterrestrials. People get mad. So it's just, it is what it is, but we got to keep the stuff fresh and new material and keep, it's where it's at right now. And I think it's really important.
Agreed. And like you said, it's about the people that go there too. They all have a story to tell. So I always appreciate that with you too, Barry, is you took the time to talk to everybody. You just walking among everybody where some kind of separate themselves.
That's the fun part, Heidi. And I didn't like that. The first couple of conferences I went to, I noticed that the speakers, like they go do their speech and then they're just kind of gone. They hang out with each other and they're gone. You know what I mean? And those people are paying a lot of money to be heard. They have stories they want to tell, stuff, and just conversate. That's where it's at, and that's what that's really about to me. So I try to, Jessica does that too, try to talk to everybody I can there. You get a little tired sometimes, got to take a break, but come back and do it. But that's really what I think is what it's about. You know what I mean? More than just up there speaking monotone. I had experiences. It's about talking to people. They want to be heard too. That's the fun part. And you learn something. It makes the whole tapestry. So.
Yeah, it builds the community. Speaking of, are you going to stay afterwards and do the day of being at the beach? There's that beach hangout. Have you heard of that? It's like
I went last year. It's actually the weekend before the conference we're going to be at.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. That weekend before. I don't know if I'm going to be able to go. That's me being away from home for a long time. So I did go last year. I went with Tyler and Barry Everson, and it was fun. We had a really good time, and I highly recommend it if anybody wants to go. It's just a great weekend at the beach with like-minded individuals as myself. So it was a lot of fun. So I recommend it.
Yay! Okay, cool. Oh, and then last to put up before your webs, you're also in one in August, I think it is Appalachian Starseed Reunion. I think that one too. So, but yeah, they can find everything at thecryptidhunters.com, right? I mean, everybody here knows you. What am I talking about? Let me introduce you guys to these guys.
I have a calendar on the bottom. If you scroll down to the bottom of my website, I'm actually also going to be at a Squatch Out where I'm going to be doing some Bigfooting. It's going to be a public event. I think the spots are all taken. I'm not sure. There may be a couple of tents left over, tent spaces. But in East Tennessee in September, I'll be at the Manimal Research East Tennessee Squatch Out. So they may open up some more spots because I know it filled up kind of quickly. but I'm going to be there. I'm going to actually be. I guess I'll be. I don't know if I'm presenting or what. I'm going to be there. Okay.
That's so fun. That's where I want to meet you.
Manimal Research, yes.
That was a horrible TV show, The Manimal. You remember that at all?
It'll be a fun event, though. Okay, and
yeah, so cool. Yeah, I'd love to see you in the field, in your element. I would really want to meet you in one of those. So that's early September. I can make that road trip.
Oh yeah. Yeah, well, I never do public Bigfooting stuff. Okay, so this is the first time I'm ever doing something publicly in the Bigfoot field, where I'm actually going to be out there potentially doing some Bigfooting with anybody who wants to come. Okay.
So cool. So cool. Yay. Well, I'm manifesting meeting you in person, Bear. I hope to run into you again. You're just as delightful. I mean, it's such a pleasure to talk with you online. Thank you for that. And yeah, cheers, everybody. I hope, okay, so my point, I hope you all got some really good summertime campfire stories out of this. I know I hit it hard in the very beginning. I was actually a little nervous. I've been excited for this for a while, and I'm like telling all my thoughts at once. And then I'm like, oh, okay, now what do we talk about? So I really just hope you got some juicy new movies to watch this summer and stories to tell around the campfire, because a lot of them are true. And pass them down to your kiddo. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. So thank you guys. And thank you, chat. You have a beautiful, great one, and enjoy your summertime vibes.
Hey, thanks for having us. Thanks for having me. Thank you to the audience too. Appreciate everybody.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. No fun trip.